All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt.
And Jake here.
We are coming to you with another week of talking about Revelation.
That's right. Live and in living color,
That's right.
they say.
That's right. So if you are just joining us, you can navigate over to sabbathlounge.com, and if you go to Teaching Series, scroll down to Revelation Study. And then we are currently on chapter 20, where we're going through the Revelation and looking at other scriptures that correspond.
Right. So this is just high end. Use it as a study guide to help you find different corresponding passages in the Bible, so you can link things together, link some ideas and themes and concepts and symbols, and see how they're described elsewhere. And so just kind of a high-end look at Revelation.
Yeah, in this one, in chapter 20, we're going to be looking at Satan's little season, or the battle of Gog and Magog. It could really be labeled several things here, but as before we look into it, just remember we're just a couple of dudes out there who have a microphone, and you need to read this and think about it on your own. Don't take anyone's word for it on the internet. We see a lot of people, even amongst the Torah community, who say some things that sometimes aren't right.
Yeah, and it's important to iron sharpen iron. Discuss these things with fellow believers and see what you come up with, and hopefully the Spirit will be driving us all in the same direction. So
yep, and we don't claim to be perfect. We all make mistakes, and if we do, let us know. We aren't too proud to say, "Oops, we missed that."
Oops, we did it again.
That's right, as some might say, like Jake. But yeah, we're definitely not too proud, and we don't claim to have a corner on the truth. Honestly, the more I dive into Scripture, about the time I think, oh, cool, that is a great little morsel I picked up there, and no one has ever thought about that before. I'm like, that's really not true. Lots of people have probably thought. I think it's hard to have an original new thought when it comes to this. Probably someone has had the thought before.
Right.
So, but the more you study Yah's Word, the more you realize how deep and complex and it's just really amazing. And so many times you dive into it and you have more questions than you started.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Questions are good.
Yeah. And anybody that claims they have it all figured out, you probably should run the other way, because they don't. So they're not being honest if they say that. So. But anyway, we're glad that you are here. We're glad that you have spent time with us this afternoon or evening or morning or whenever you are listening to this. If you listen to this live, one of us will try to be in the chat and comment.
That's right. And that usually airs on Shabbat.
We'll do it Shabbat morning, so early. Well, 9 a.m. Central Time.
Not too early. It is a day of rest, by the way.
Yes.
After all.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get right into Revelation 20, and we're going to read through it, and then we'll bump over to the other scriptures that go with it. So, Revelation 20, verse 1. I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding the key to the bottomless pit and a large chain in his hand. He overpowered the serpent, that ancient snake, named Devil and Satan. The angel chained up in the serpent for 1,000 years. He threw it into the bottomless pit. The angel shut and sealed the pit over the serpent to keep it from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years were over. After that, it must be set free for a little while.
Just a little while.
I saw thrones, and those who sat on them were allowed to judge. Then I saw the souls of those whose heads had been cut off because of their testimony about Yeshua and because of the word of Elohim. They had not worshipped the beast or its statue and were not branded on their foreheads or hands. They lived and ruled with Messiah for 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not live until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first time that people came back to life. Blessed and holy are those who are included the first time that people come back to life. The second death has no power over them. They will continue to be priests of Elohim and Messiah. They will rule with him for 1,000 years. So definitely this 1,000 years here must be connected to this 1,000 years. And
Yes.
here, it's got to be the same time period.
When 1,000 years are over, Satan will be freed from his prison. He will go out to deceive Gog and Magog, the nations in the four corners of the earth, and gather them for war. They will be as numerous as the grains of sand on the seashore. I saw that they spread over the broad expanse of the earth and surrounded the camp of Elohim's holy people and the beloved city. Fire came from heaven and burned them up. The devil who deceived them was thrown into the fiery lake of sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were also thrown. They will be tortured day and night forever and ever. I saw a large white throne, and the one who is sitting on it. The earth and the sky fled from his presence, but no place was found for them. I saw the dead, both important and unimportant people, standing in front of the throne. Books were opened, including the book of life. The dead were judged on the basis of what they had done, as recorded in the books. The sea gave up its dead. Death and hell gave up their dead. People were judged based on what they had done. Death and hell were thrown into the fiery lake. The fiery lake is the second death, wink wink. Those whose names were not found in the book of life were thrown into the fiery lake.
Wow. That's dramatic.
Yes.
So,
There's so much in there.
yep, no doubt on which side of all this you want to be on. And then, this one, we called it the first resurrection, Gog and Magog battle for Jerusalem.
Wah, wah, wah.
So,
Wait, that's the wrong sound effect. I pushed the wrong button on that one.
yes, push the wrong button. So, Revelation 20, verse 1, I saw an angel coming down from heaven holding the key to the bottomless pit and a large chain around his hand. I want to say neck. I don't know why.
Because you think Mr. T is coming down.
That's right. Or Flavor Flav.
Flavor Flav.
So,
I hope not.
yes, no. Ezekiel 43:2, I saw the glory of Elohim of Israel coming from the east. His voice was like the sound of... Oops. Did the same thing.
Share that tab, Matt.
Yep. His voice was like the sound of rushing water, and the earth was shining because of his glory. Isaiah 14:15, but you've been brought down to Sheol, to the deepest part of the pit. Revelation 9:1-2, when the fifth angel blew its trumpet, I saw a star had fallen to the earth from the sky. The star was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. It opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and smoke came out of the shaft of the like smoke from a large furnace. The smoke darkened the sun and the air.
Yeah, that's interesting there. Do you presume that that's the same angel?
Yeah, it's like, was this written in chronological order? Not necessarily. People say that about Revelation, and that may be one of the reasons that's said, because this does seem to be lining up, that you've got an angel and
With a key to the bottomless
with
pit?
a key and doing something with it, yeah.
Yeah, so unless one angel goes back and gives the other angel the key, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's multiple keys. I wonder how many keys are on the holy key ring,
On the holy
as it
key.
were.
I don't know. Revelation 19:11, the king who ruled them was the angel from the bottomless pit. In Hebrew, he's Abaddon, and in Greek, he's called Apollyon. Revelation 11:7, when the witness finished their testimony, the beast which comes from the bottomless pit will fight them, conquer them, and kill them. Revelation 17:8, you saw the beast which once was, is no longer, and will come from the bottomless pit and go to its destruction. Those living on earth whose names were not written in the book of life when the world was created will be surprised when they see the beast, because it was, is no longer, and will come again. Yeah, interesting. All seem to be correlated together quite nicely.
I have a feeling we're going to find a lot of other Revelation tie-ins.
Yeah.
Especially since we're late into Revelation.
Yeah, it seems like the deeper you go into Revelation, the more Revelation is explaining Revelation.
Yeah, exactly. I think this phrase is interesting in Revelation 17:8. Those living on the earth whose names were not written in the book of life when the world was created. Ooh, a little predestination talk there. There. Now we can just go make a whole theology out of that one verse.
People probably do. Yeah. And I think it could be a simple explanation of this is kind of like when you're born in the good old USA, there's a record of your birth somewhere. And that's back in the day, it was written in a book. And so today the book is, the state government website, archives or something.
Right.
And so it could even be like that when a human is born, their name is, written in there until, they decide to, on their own to blot their name out because of sin kind of thing. And the people that aren't in it could be, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to ponder.
Yeah. So is this a literal physical bottomless pit and a literal physical large chain?
I think those are great questions because in Revelation it generally tells you when it's not the thing, doesn't it? So
typically the golden rule of interpretation is if it describes the symbol, then that's the interpretation of that symbol.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say like a large chain.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes sense that there's too many references to Sheol being a pit at the bottom of the water anyway. Lots of references to that. It makes sense that there's really a pit.
Yeah, I think the whole...
I've seen it. Actually, it's in Carlsbad Caverns.
Ooh.
And I remember the first time I saw it, the only time I've seen it, and looking in this dark hole going, whoa, there's no bottom. And then I remember reading, in more detail, and they're like, oh, it's like 70 feet. And I'm like, how's it the bottomless pit?
Right.
So I was very confused.
Yeah. 70 isn't super far. I mean, I wouldn't want to fall in it. But
far enough, yeah.
Yeah. I think we tend to, especially Western mindset, is to put all this stuff into, we're very big on philosophy and things like that, and making all these things ethereal and, spiritual, and spiritual meaning you can't see it or touch it. But I think when Messiah resurrects, he's spirit, right?
Yeah.
And they see and touch him. So point being, it would make sense that a physical chain would be used to chain a physical being.
Especially a beast.
Yeah.
A terrible beast. I mean, you're going to put that thing on a chain.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a chain made with human hands. It's going to be a chain they can't break.
Yep.
Like out of their kryptonite or whatever it is.
All right. Revelation 20, verse 2. He overpowered the serpent, that ancient snake named Devil and Satan. The angel chained up the serpent for 1,000 years. Now, what's interesting to me here is this is not Yeshua doing this. Mm-hmm. This is an angel. Probably Michael would make sense. He's had his run-in with Satan before, but it wasn't his time.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that they have another meeting. Mm-hmm. Then again, that is also speculation.
Yes, speculation. And if so, he's probably got a big grin on his face, like about time, sucker.
So he's Mr. T.
That's right.
That's right.
He's Mr.
Just
T.
like we said.
And he didn't even push their head down to get in the cop car. He's like, "Oh, you bump your head a little." He might push it a little.
All right, so we're tying that with Genesis 3:1. The snake was more clever than all the wild animals Yahweh Elohim had made. He asked the woman, "Did Elohim really say, 'You must never eat the fruit of any tree in the garden'?" So, snake lingo. At that point, he's probably more like a dragon, because then he's cursed with crawling on his belly, right?
Maybe, yeah.
2 Peter 2:4. Elohim didn't spare angels who sinned. He threw them into hell, where he has secured them with chains of darkness and is holding them for judgment. So that's interesting, because the chains are of darkness. So that's a like a poetic way of saying that they're imprisoned there, not a physical chain situation. Wherein the Revelation verse doesn't say anything about that.
Yeah.
Jude 6. He held angels for judgment on the great day. They were held in darkness, bound by eternal chains. These are the angels who didn't keep their position of authority, but abandoned their assigned place. Such good imagery on all this, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Jude is a powerful little book there if you've never read that. Revelation 23, he threw it...
Hang on, real quick.
Oh.
Just the darkness thing reminds me of the plague in Egypt, the plague of darkness. Yeah. So that ties in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The darkness that could be felt.
Yeah. Oh, and are we saying this is literal 1,000 years? Like interpret...
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's saying a day. I interpret this as as a 1,000 years. That's a long time. But in Yah's perspective, he does tell us that's a day, but then you make the argument, well, there's 7 days to him, I guess, of human life here or something. So, and it's one of those.
Yeah, it's one of those where you could kind of reverse the idea. A day is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years like a day, but when you look at the setup of the week and the Sabbath being 1,000-year increments, that makes sense. If you take the 1,000 years and go back to days, it clearly doesn't make sense in this case for this number reference. But so you gotta kind of be careful how you're manipulating numbers.
Yeah. You kind of have to use the same measure. It gets confusing, I think.
Yeah.
So, but either way, it's still a long length of time. And by the way, we do not hold to, Jake and I have discussed this, we do not hold to some of the 70 AD theories that you see out there that says all this already happened a long time ago. So,
and that we're in that 1,000 years now, right?
Yeah. And we don't intend to really, that's not the topic or the point of this, but we just have to say that.
Right.
So, because you may see that out there, and I also reserve the right to be wrong about it. But I'm gonna stay in the lane I'm in now, and anyway. So,
all right.
Did we finish 23?
No, you're up.
He threw it into the bottomless pit. The angel shut and sealed the pit over the serpent to keep it from deceiving the nations anymore until the 1,000 years were over. After that, it must be set free for a little while. And isn't that what is called Satan's little season, that phrase right there?
Yeah, and I misspoke earlier about the loosed for 1,000 years. It's loosed for a little while, for a season, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, the 1,000 years are over and then. And then Daniel 6:17, a stone was brought out and placed over the opening of the den. The king put a seal on the stone using his ring and the rings of his nobles so that Daniel's situation could not be changed. Same kind of thing of getting a pit sealed up. Speaking of pits being sealed up. Matthew 16:19, I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you imprison, Yah will imprison, and whatever you set free, Yah will set free. Kind of interesting. These keys of the kingdom appear to be different than these other keys.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew 27:66, so they went to secure the tomb. They placed a seal on the stone and posted the soldiers on guard duty. So definitely verbiage of having a pit with some kind of a seal on it. That was something that world knew very well.
Yeah. All right. Revelation 20, verse 4. I saw thrones, and those who sat on them were allowed to judge. Then I saw the souls of those whose heads had been cut off because of their testimony about Yeshua and because of the word of Elohim. They had not worshipped the beast or its statue and were not branded on their foreheads or hands. They lived and ruled with Messiah for 1,000 years. That's, so a couple things on that. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Well, these are people who haven't taken the mark of the beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I see on this is they sit on thrones judging. That's the disciples are promised that, right?
Right.
And probably the heads of the families as well, the tribes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because there's 24 thrones.
Yeah.
Besides the one Yeshua's on. And then one other thing on here was I saw the souls of those whose heads had been cut off because of their testimony about Yeshua. Remember probably 10 years ago now when all that was happening with ISIS?
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. But could happen again.
Yeah.
Apparently it will.
It looks like it.
Unless you say that time was this.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Psalm 90, just throwing out trouble everywhere we go.
That's right. Yeah.
Psalm 90, verse 4. Indeed, in your sight, 1,000 years are like a single day, like yesterday already passed, like an hour in the night. Ecclesiastes 6:6. Yea, though he lived 1,000 years, twice told, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place? That's interesting, too, because when Messiah dies and is buried, he goes down to Sheol, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the time frame that Ecclesiastes is being written, their understanding is everyone goes to one place at the end. And
yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel 7, verse 9, I watched until thrones were set up, and the Ancient One, who has lived for endless years, sat down. His clothes were as white as snow, and the hair on his head was like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and its wheels were burning fire.
So his throne is mobile.
Well, it sounds like he's a wheelchair guy.
Maybe.
Okay. I think that's how they came up with Professor Xavier.
I don't know that.
I don't know that either.
I don't know him.
From X-Men?
Oh, yeah. I never watched that.
You missed out on Saturday morning cartoons, Matt.
Yep.
Okay. Daniel 7:22. It did this until the Ancient One... Wait, did I read that one? No, it's similar verbiage.
Yeah,
there.
we were on the wheels.
Yeah. It did this until the Ancient One, who has lived for endless years, came and judged in favor of the holy people of the Elyonin. The time came when the holy people took possession of the kingdom.
I like that.
Yeah. Daniel 7:24. The 10 horns are 10 kings that will rise to power from that kingdom. Another king will rise to power after them. He will be different from the kings who came before him, and he will humble 3 kings. Daniel 9:22. He informed me, Daniel, this time I have come to give you insight. Perfect. Okay, Daniel 9:27. He will confirm his promise with many for one set of 7 time periods. In the middle of the 7 time periods, he will stop the sacrifices and food offerings. This will happen along with disgusting things that cause destruction until those time periods come to an end. It has been determined that this will happen to those who destroy the city. Matthew 19:28. Yeshua said to them, I can guarantee this truth. When the Son of Man sits on his throne, his glorious throne, in the world to come, you, my followers, will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And that's like we were talking about earlier. That's the disciples sitting on the 12 thrones, judging the tribes. Okay, so interesting here. They're not judging outsiders.
Yeah.
Judging within the family.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think many people kind of have that, he's judging the whole world, but there's judgment in the house of Yah first.
Yeah. John 14:19. In a little while the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. You will live because I live. 1 Corinthians 6:2. Don't you know that Elohim's people will judge the world? So if you're going to judge the world, aren't you capable of judging insignificant cases? This is one of those things where it's like, judge not, Matt, and then make a theology about not allowed to judge. Well, then you gotta work out with this verse also.
Yep, good point.
Let's see, Ephesians 2:6. Elohim has brought us back to life together with Messiah Yeshua and has given us a position in heaven with him. Ephesians 4:23. However, you were taught to have a new attitude. So change your attitude. Philippians 2:5. Have the same attitude that Messiah Yeshua had. 2 Peter 3:8. Dear friends, don't ignore this fact. One day with the Master is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like one day. Revelation 14:8-11. Another angel, a second one, followed him and said, Fallen, Babylon the Great has fallen. She has made all the nations drink the wine of her passionate sexual sins. Another angel, a third one, followed them and said in a loud voice, Whoever worships the beast or its statue, whoever is branded on his forehead or his hand, will drink the wine of Elohim's fury, which has been poured unmixed into the cup of Elohim's anger. Then he will be tortured by fiery sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and the Lamb. The smoke from their torture will go up forever and ever. There will be no rest day or night for those who worship the beast or its statue, or for anyone branded with its name.
Yikes. So I think that this kind of imagery is where people get their ideas. I mean, a lot of their ideas about hell came from Dante's Inferno, but this kind of leads credence to you're working in torture day and night 24/7 with no rest.
Yeah.
Where whatever is happening there is not pleasant.
Well, and we'll get to this later on in chapter 20 of Revelation, and we'll make some comment on that when we get there as well.
And then Revelation 25, the rest of the dead did not live until the 1,000 years ended. This is the first time that people came back to life, which is interesting because weren't there people that came back to life after Yeshua resurrected?
Yes. The graves broke open and the dead walked.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a translation deal. Maybe somebody out there knows.
Right. So I have this idea, patent pending. So no one's allowed to steal this. Wait, that's not right. Copyright is the books, right?
Trademark.
Trademark?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trademarking this idea, so you're not allowed to steal it. Okay. But I think, well, and I probably won't do this just because I don't want to be, told that I'm adding to scripture or anything like that. But I always thought it would be interesting to make like a book called something stupid like The Lost Book of Z or something stupid like that.
Okay.
And so since that verse about the grave split open and the dead walked like around everybody in town, it's one verse, but this Lost Book of Z would go into all the detail of like what that looked like, and it would be a zombie book basically. That was always my idea.
Yeah.
When I read that, I was like, oh, we need to make like a zombie Bible book that explains that goes off on that idea.
Yeah. It makes you wonder what happened with them. Did they
Yeah.
Were they resurrected permanently, or was it temporary?
Yeah. But I think that idea would be bad. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it would be interesting for sure, but zombies are bad.
Yeah. Well, you heard it there first. So throw your eggs at Jake.
That's right.
So Ezekiel 37:10-14. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath entered them, and then they came to life and stood on their feet. There was enough of them for a very large army. Yahweh also said to me, Son of man, all the people of Israel are like these bones. The people say, Our bones are dry, and our hope is vanished. We are completely destroyed. So prophesy, tell them, This is what Adonai Yahweh says, My people, I will open your graves and take you out of them. I will bring you to Israel. Then, my people, you will know that I am Yahweh, because I will open your graves and bring you out of the graves. I will put my Ruach in you, and you will live. I will place you in your own land, and then you will know that I, Yahweh, have spoken, and I have done it, declares Yahweh.
Yeah, so I guess you might be tempted to tie this phraseology in Ezekiel with the rising of the dead from the graves at Messiah's death, right?
Yes. And I think that this is an important thing to note for people that want to go down the 70 AD rabbit trail that in the preterism is. So it says right here that everyone is going to know who did this. And I don't think there's going to be any doubt, and I think that's part of my problem with some of these things in the preterism view is it's like it all got hidden or forgotten or retold. I'm like, when Yah does it, you can't hide it.
Yeah.
No matter what the enemy does. But this is, it says, I will, you will know that I am Yahweh.
Yeah.
Because I did this. So, Luke 14.
Well, I guess the argument to that would be they would say, well, it says, my people will know I'm Yahweh. And if you know Yahweh, you're his people, right? It's kind of circular argument, but
yeah, true.
I think that's the direction it would go.
Yeah, but I think people are going to notice that.
Well, and and if there wasn't some evidence to that, no one would listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's very intelligent people go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to it.
Yeah.
But I'm not on board.
Yeah. Luke 14:14. Then you will be blessed because they don't have any way to pay you back. You'll be paid back when those who have Yah's approval come back to life. Philippians 3:11. With the confidence that I'll come back to life from the dead. 1 Thessalonians 4:16. The Yahweh will come from heaven with a command, with the voice of the archangel and the trumpet call of Elohim. First, the dead who believed in Messiah will come back to life.
Right. So this is pointing to not the ones that came out of the grave at Messiah's death. This is pointing it way ahead of that.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 20, verse 6. Blessed and holy are those who are included the first time that people come back to life. The second death has no power over them. They will continue to be priests of Elohim and Messiah. They will rule with him for 1,000 years. Yeah, interesting that there's priests, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's tied to all believers being priests. And what would what priestly duty would there be to do at the end of time?
I don't know. That also is a very much heated, debated topic as well. So
yeah, because then you're talking. Well, then there's people outside of the city,
mm-hmm.
outside of the nation,
maybe
that are just
learning for the first time, and they got to start back with the basics.
Yeah, because there's a parallel of Melchizedek priesthood, and when you look at Ezekiel 44 and on, there's also a resurgence of the Levitical priesthood. So
Yeah.
So those are things you need to consider when you're reading through this idea of priests in the end times situation.
And this,
go ahead.
This goes into, it can be connected with like the greater Exodus as well. And if you have a greater Exodus moment, I don't know, there could be another Mount Sinai kind of moment or something, we just don't know. But apparently,
yeah,
the whole priesthood thing is an interesting study.
Yeah, sure. I think if you just start asking some questions, and then that'll kind of lead you to seek out the answers to those. Like, what is a priest? What does a priest do? What does it mean to minister as a priest? Mm-hmm. Just those kind of questions, and dig into those, and it'll take you some places like all over the place.
Yeah.
But that's something you need to know the beginning of the book to kind of get a handle on too. So
yeah.
All those parts that typically people think are dry have, important meaning that we need to kind of study out.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I got 1 Peter 2:9. However, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, people who belong to Elohim. You are chosen to tell about the excellent qualities of Elohim, who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Marvelous.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
There's a song called Marvelous Light.
Sing it.
I can't.
Okay, that's beautiful. Well, maybe we'll work on it for next time.
That's right, man. Yeah.
Revelation, if you have listened to us for a while, we do not sing. So.
Yes, and you are thankful.
That's right. Revelation 20, verse 7. When 1,000 years are over, Satan will be freed from his prison. Matthew 18:18. I can guarantee this truth. Whatever you imprison, Elohim will imprison, and whatever you set free, Elohim will set free. So I hope he doesn't set Satan free. Well, he does for a little while, right?
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking, man, I got away with a short one, but no. Now I get the long one.
Oh, man.
All right, so Revelation 28, he will go out to deceive Gog and Magog, the nations in the four corners of the earth, and gather them for war. They will be as numerous as the grains of sand on the seashore. I think I've heard that before. Mm-hmm. So in context, in relation with verse 7, the he here is Satan, or Hasatan. Ezekiel 7:2, Son of man, this is what Adonai Yahweh says to the people in the land of Israel. The end is coming. The end is coming to the four corners of the earth. Ezekiel, little doubt of what that's talking about. Ezekiel 38:2, Son of man, turn to Gog from the land of Magog. He's the chief prince against the chief prince of the nations, Meshach and Tubal. Prophesy against him. Ezekiel 38:6, Gomer will come with all its troops, and with the nation of Togarmah from the north. There will be many armies with you. Ezekiel 39:1, the master says, Son of man, prophesy against Gog. Tell it. This is what Adonai Yahweh says. I'm against you, Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Ezekiel 39:6, I will send fire to Magog and those who live safely on the coast. They will know that I am Yahweh. Isaiah 34:2, Yahweh is angry with all the nations. He's furious with all the enemies. He has claimed them for destruction. He has handed them over to be slaughtered. Zechariah 12:3, on that day I'll make Jerusalem a stone too heavy for all the nations to lift. All who will try to lift it will be severely injured. All the nations in the world will gather to fight against Jerusalem. They're going to get a hernia.
Right? It's like I don't know. I guess there are several ways to be injured lifting something heavy, but I mean, you typically think about one way, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess you could hurt your back.
Yeah. Or like the old Saturday Night Live skit, your arms fall off because you're lifting the weights. And you,
right. This kind of has a ring to it, too, of can God make a stone so heavy that not even he can lift it? Right? So Jerusalem is a stone too heavy for the nations to lift.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Joel 2:2, it is a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and overcast skies. A large and mighty army will spread over the mountains like the dawn. Nothing like this has ever happened, and nothing like this will ever happen again. So
Yeah, if that happened already,
yeah,
I feel like we'd know more about it.
that's right. Just simply because this is powerful, in world history. We tend to remember those events that are unique like that. Somebody saw it and wrote it down. Typically,
Yeah, and again, Yahweh is going to want to preserve that he did that.
yeah, he's going to make it obvious. There's not going to be any doubt. You're not going to be like, I wonder. It's not going to be like the pyramids. You're like, I wonder who built them.
We all know.
Yeah.
Pyramids aren't in question, Matt. We know it was the Nephilim.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or slave labor. Or aqueducts. Or or aliens.
Matthew 24:30. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky. All the people on earth will cry in agony when they see the Son of Man coming in clouds in the sky with power and great glory.
So this is where they stole this idea. Batman stole this idea here.
Oh, yeah?
The sign that appears in the sky.
Oh, yes. Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. Very cheaply, yep. Hebrews 11:12, Abraham was as good as dead, yet from this man came descendants as numerous as the stars of the sky and the countless as the grains of sand on the seashore. I wonder if Abraham's like, wait a minute, I was still alive. I had a lot of life in me.
So go back up to the Revelation part. Okay, the nations in the four corners of the earth. He's deceiving Gog and Magog. And they are the nations in the four corners of the earth. And he gathers them for war. They will be as numerous as the grains of sand in the seashore. So, this is Satan's army that's as numerous as the grains of sand in the seashore. Interestingly, a ripoff of Abraham's descendants, the promise from Yahweh.
Yeah. And people theorize about Gog and Magog, people say things like, it's Russia, it's all this.
Russia and Iran.
Yeah.
Been hearing that since I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah. So it says Gog, Magog, and it says Gog and Magog, and then it's like explaining what Gog and Magog is, isn't it?
It sounds like it.
So it's interesting because people generally say Gog is from the north, but to me, when I read this, it's saying they represent all these different nations from the four corners of the earth.
Yeah.
Everybody
Well, let's be
against
honest.
it.
Russia's trying to be like a whole corner of the earth.
Yeah, and doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty big.
Yeah. It's giant.
Yep. It's a Nephilim.
Ooh.
That's where they all went. Okay, Revelation 20, verse 9. I saw that they spread over the broad expanse of the earth and surrounded the camp of Elohim's holy people and the beloved city. Fire came from heaven and burned them up. All right, Deuteronomy 23:14. Yahweh your Elohim moves around in your camp to protect you and hand your enemies over to you. So your camp must always be holy. This way, Yahweh will never see anything offensive among you and turn away from you. This is the pointy stick reference.
Yeah, it's about
interesting.
cleanup after,
I want to be walking in that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pick up after your pet.
And your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, Psalm 18:13. Yahweh thundered in the heavens. Elyon made his voice heard with hailstones and lightning. Psalm 87:2. Yahweh loves the city of Zion more than any other place in Jacob. Ezekiel. So he calls the place Jacob. So there's a theory that whenever he says Jacob, he's talking about
flesh.
And whenever he's talking about Israel, it's spiritual. Or it's the idea of when you're in trouble, when your kid's in trouble, you're always your mom's kid then.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not or depending, if I'm talking, my kid's in trouble, my kid's their mom's kid, right?
Uh-huh.
But if they're really good, they're my kid.
Yeah.
Look what my son did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
They're so smart.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I go with that theory, but something to think about.
Yeah, I do think that it is something, because when you consider every time he uses Israel, he's saying one who struggles, and I forgot what does Jacob mean.
Heel grabber.
Yeah. So he's going between those two. So in
That's
essence,
true. It is a meaning thing.
If you sub out that they mean something different, it is saying something.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it always falls on those lines though, but
sometimes in Hebrew poetry, it is written as a A-B pattern, A-B rhyming scheme as well. So it could be something like that.
Yeah, and I think that typically when people are talking about that, I think they're really only applying that to the Torah portion where it's talking Jacob and Israel.
Yeah.
Not that specific portion, but I know some people would call Psalms the Torah, but what I'm talking about is, the first 5. Typically, I think that's where they're making their case. So when it jumps to Psalms and stuff like that, I think they're like, it's out of the realm of that situation. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah.
All right. Ezekiel 38:9, I read. Ezekiel 38:16, you will attack my people Israel like a cloud that covers the land. In the days to come, I will let you attack my land so that nations will know me. I will use you for my holy purpose as they watch.
Once again, I think you get an inference of, they're going to know.
Mm-hmm.
So the nations will know him. Like he's got a purpose to it, and it's going to be obvious that what's happening.
All right. Ezekiel 38:22, I will punish Gog with plagues and death. I will send rainstorms, large hailstones, fire, and burning sulfur on his troops and on the many armies with him. Ezekiel 39:6, I will send fire on Magog and on those who live safely on the coasts. Then they will know that I am Yahweh. Get that waterfront property now, Matt.
Yeah.
Isn't L.A. on the coast?
While it's hot. Yes, and apparently at the moment it's been on fire, but when is it not?
Yeah, that's true.
So it seems like it's always burning over there. And it's like
so what you're saying is L.A. is Magog.
Yes. Battle for L.A.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait, that was a movie, wasn't it?
I think it was Escape from L.A.
Escape from, maybe, I think there was a battle.
Wasn't that a sequel
LA.
of Escape from New York?
I don't know.
Kurt Russell. Fact check us on that. Put it in the comments. Okay, Daniel 7:9-10. I watched until thrones were set up, and the Ancient One who has lived for endless years sat down. His clothes were as white as snow, and the hair on his head was like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and its wheels were burning fire. A river of fire flowed. It came from him. Thousands and thousands served him. 10,000 times 10,000 were stationed in front of him. The court convened, and the books were opened.
Definitely seems like a pretty strong connection to this text that we've been reading.
Daniel 7:25. I think we read this. He will speak against the Elyonin, oppress the holy people of the Ilah, and plan to change the appointed times and laws. The holy people will be handed over to him for a time, and half a time. No, we didn't read that one.
Mm-mm. And that one is an interesting scripture because one can make an argument that has happened to a certain extent. They have changed the appointed times and the laws.
Yeah, this is one that's interesting. If you don't know what the appointed times are pointing to, like the feasts, then that might not mean much to you. Mm-hmm. I think one thing, though... Well, I was going to say something, but I don't think it's true, so I won't say it. Zechariah 14:2. I will gather all the nations to Jerusalem for battle. The city will be captured, the houses looted, and the women raped. Half of the people in the city will go into exile, but the rest of the people won't be taken from the city.
Yeah, I would assume that's bad. That means maybe they're not walking away from the city.
Yeah.
They are no more.
It doesn't sound good. Luke 21:20. When you see armies camped around Jerusalem, realize that the time is near for it to be destroyed. That's when you want to sneak out of there.
Yeah.
2 Thessalonians 1. Well, then again, you got fire raining down from heaven that could possibly save you, right?
And I would say, your preterist view on that would be, that did happen when Jerusalem was destroyed in 70 A.D.
Mm-hmm. But then again, you'd have to say, well, it also happened back in the Maccabees and
in 586.
Yeah. And also before Messiah, like Nebuchadnezzar time frame,
right.
That kind of thing. But
yeah, that'd be your 586 one.
Oh, yeah, I guess
586 BC.
Okay. 2 Thessalonians 1:7-8. It is also right for Elohim to give all of us relief from our suffering. He will do this when the Master Yeshua is revealed, coming from heaven with his mighty angels in a blazing fire. He will take revenge on those who refuse to acknowledge Elohim and on those who refuse to respond to the good news about our Master Yeshua.
Yeah, not good. Revelation 20:10. The devil, who deceived them, was thrown into the fiery lake of sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were also thrown. They will be tortured day and night, forever and ever. Isaiah 11:9. They will not hurt or destroy anyone anywhere on my holy mountain. The world will be filled with the knowledge of Yahweh like water covering the sea. That's a beautiful picture.
Is there anywhere that water doesn't cover the sea? It's like, is water wet? That's that kind of question, I guess.
Yeah. Good point. Isaiah 66:15. Yahweh will come with fire and with chariots like a thunderstorm. He will pay them back with his anger, with his burning anger, and punish them with flames of fire. Jeremiah 5:14. This is what Yahweh Elohim Tessaboth says. Because you've talked like this, I'm going to put my words in your mouth like a fire. These people will be like wood. My words will burn them up. Ezekiel 38:22. I will punish Gog with plagues of death. I will send rain. We read that, didn't we? A minute earlier. Zechariah 12:6. On that day I will make the leaders of Judah like a fire on a pile of wood, like a burning torch amongst freshly cut straw. They will burn up all the surrounding nations to the right and left of them. But the people of Jerusalem will remain safe in Jerusalem. Joel 2:3. In front of this army a fire burns. Behind it flames are blazing. In front of the land is like the Garden of Eden. Behind the land is a barren desert. Nothing escapes it.
So I think we mentioned a little bit earlier about the Dante's Inferno, the idea of forever torture and burning and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I believe, I'm not sure the reference, maybe someone could put it in the comments. I think it's fairly well known, but the fact that that torture was designed for Satan and the angels that fell, not people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here it's saying that they will burn forever, not the people, but the devil who deceived them. He burns forever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see it specifically talking about the people being burned forever.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with the concept of a teacher is judged more severely. And
good point.
These, if you read books like Enoch, they tell you that part of what happened is these fallen angels taught people things that maybe Yah wasn't ready for them to know, or didn't
never
want
wanted
them to know.
Yeah.
And so they were, teaching was kind of, you can make an argument that's part of what they did.
Yeah.
And, false teaching, the false teacher, it all kind of connects.
Yeah.
So
I think too, a point that kind of gets missed, and I think, the body kind of plays fast and loose with this, and I'm guilty of it as well. But when we think about what's you're a teacher, Matt. What's a better way to cement knowledge into children? Is it to give it to them or have them discover it?
Discover it.
And how do you have them discover it?
You set them up, and sometimes you already know kind of where it's going to lead, and you set them up to so they kind of discover it and end up in the direction a good teacher does that. And you all of a sudden, as an adult, you start realizing that, like, wait a minute, that guy just set me up to walk into this. Good one.
So typically you're going to ask them some questions that make them think along a certain line, right? Mm-hmm. And then that line will lead them to the kind of the answer you wanted them to find, right?
Yeah.
So with that idea of, questions being a good teacher, I think about the question that Satan asks in the garden. Did Yah really say? And all he did was ask a question, and it led her astray. So I think sometimes we need to be careful what questions we're actually asking, because we'll read something and go, oh, I wonder if it means. Now you've gone possibly way off track.
Yeah.
And now you're bringing all this other ideas into your head that are actually dangerous.
Yeah.
I think that's a tough thing to play with, because we are trying to discern what these things mean. So you have to ask questions. But I think it's something we need to be careful with.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, because early on in Torah, you're just like, they lied to me about this. And you turn the page the next day, they lied to me about this. It's like everything. And then most people go down a conspiracy rabbit hole, and they start looking at all these other things and looking at the sky and all the things man is doing. And you're just like, what? I can't believe this. And if you're not careful in our Torah circles, we can get caught up in those wild rabbit trails. And they could all be true, or they could half be true, but sometimes we camp out in them like it's the gospel truth, and we don't know many of these things, and we can't change them. We can pray about these things, but we would rather sit around and talk about how terrible it is often than put a lot of prayer time in it, or
action.
Yeah.
Toward it, right?
Mm-hmm. And we will spend more time, effort, and energy sometimes chasing these negative things, because it is like fear porn, and we're like, "Ooh, this is good. I like this. Yeah."
I am also angry.
Yes. And your mind can just spiral out of control, and it's like the more you watch it, the more you want to watch it, and the more you want to find out. But sometimes you have to go, whoa, what am I doing here? I'm not in the Word. I'm not in prayer.
I think a good question to ask is, if you're caught in that little spiral, what's the fruit that's coming out of it?
Yeah.
And then you can kind of gauge it that way.
Yeah. Because if your fruit is negativity and
fear,
cynicism of the world around you, it's probably not a good place. And then if it's making you angry, that's probably not a good thing. And I think it's something to pay attention to, especially in our fellowships where we can spiral out of control and be like, "Did you hear about this? Did you hear about this?" And it may all be true. But it just sometimes is the wrong focus, and then also it can really hurt your witness, because we want to be heard. We want our friends, our family members to hear us. My son-in-law put it really well. He said, you go into Torah and you're kind of an island over here from the rest of. A lot of times you're an island from the Christian camp, you're an island from the Jewish camp, and they're like, whoa, weirdos over there. Have fun with your little island self over there, your little tribe. And then you start camping out on too many of these rabbit trails, fringe topics, which may not be true, and for sure aren't salvation issues. But I also would say some of these issues, if you're not careful, you can lose your salvation chasing some of these things, because you could get to a point where you don't believe anything if you're not careful. And I think sometimes you kind of got to rein that in and go, wait, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? Is my purpose to do this, or learn about Yah and His kingdom and His word and how to put it in my life and put it in practice? Because
that's the important part, is putting it in practice and walking it out. Not just storing a bunch of information in your head doesn't do you or the world any good.
Yeah, then I think you're in danger of Gnosticism.
Yes.
If you're not careful, then, because you're just building up knowledge to have this knowledge and you've done nothing with it. But then you puffed your own self up and go like, oh, look what I figured out. And, that's easy.
We don't do that though, Matt.
We hope not. I hope we do not.
I've fallen into those categories.
Well, I'm saying I hope we don't do that on Sabbath Lounge. But,
well, right.
But is my human life, absolutely. For me, I was that way teaching school, because teaching as a teacher, that kind of puffs you up a little bit, and because you're the expert.
You're the smartest one in the room.
That's right. There's this element of respect.
Hopefully.
Yeah. There's this element of respect from the community, from the teachers, from other teachers, from parents, from kids, and they look to you as being smart and knowing a bunch of stuff, and you kind of get to where you're like, yeah, you believe your own hype a little bit, and you're like, yeah, I'm a pretty big deal. That's right. And I kind of had that attitude, and I think that's why Yah took me out of education and put me into a field that I didn't know much about in landscaping, and it's like, all right, fella, you think you know something, don't you? Let me show you. Let me show you what you don't know. And he humbled me, and I looked foolish several times, and I learned, how ironic. Not only did he humble me, but he used an atheist man to do it. And he's like,
that's a little worse, right?
I know. So it was like a judgment from him, that and the thing that I had to learn, and I came out better for it, because I recently had a coworker who has told me things like that before, that he got humbled, and maybe he didn't learn all the lessons that he should learn, and I think that can happen if you're not careful. Yah can humble you, and hopefully we learn all the lessons we're supposed to learn, because if we don't, I think it might happen again.
Yeah.
Till we get it.
Right.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, all that just
easy.
To say that, we're saying that to ourselves as much as we are to anyone else.
Yeah. We want to just encourage you in those fellowships to be focused on what you're supposed to focus on, and not get too distracted, because fellowships can divide over some of these rabbits, and if you pursue them too much, you're just going to create division. And sometimes you can just sit and be silent on a matter. It's okay. You don't have to say your 2 cents, but if you like to talk, sometimes that's hard to do. Like sitting on your hands, like
yeah.
Maybe you need a buddy that can poke you in the ribs or something, and that's your sign. Some of us have that, and it's called a spouse.
All right, Revelation. That's what we were doing. Revelation.
Yeah.
20 verse 11.
Speaking of rabbit trails,
I saw a large white rabbit. Wait. No, I saw a large white throne, and the one who was sitting on it. The earth and the sky fled from his presence, but no place was found for them. Daniel 2:35. Then all at once the iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold were smashed. They became like husks on a threshing floor in summer. The wind carried them away, and not a trace of them could be found, but the stone that struck the statue became a large mountain, which filled the whole world. Daniel 7:9. I watched until thrones were set up, and the Ancient One, who has lived for endless years, sat down. His clothes were as white as snow, and the hair on his head was like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames, and it's the wheelchair guy again. Okay. Mm-hmm. John 20:12. She saw 2 angels in white clothes. They were sitting where the body of Yeshua had been lying. One angel was where Yeshua's head had been, and the other was where his feet had been. Acts 1, 10. They were staring into the sky as he departed. Suddenly, 2 men in white clothes stood near them. Revelation 14:14. Then I looked, and there was a white cloud, and on the cloud sat someone who looked like the Son of Man. He had a gold crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. Revelation 16:20. Every island vanished, and the mountains could no longer be seen. Revelation 19:11. I saw heaven standing open. There was a white horse, and its rider is named Faithful and True. With integrity, he judges and wages war. So there's an ultimate judge in Yeshua. He has the specific task of judging, but then the elders in the thrones also have judging capacity. I suspect it's different than Yeshua's judging capacity.
Yeah, for sure. It's not going to be the same. Yeah, it's quite a, just thinking about Revelation 20:11, that's quite a statement. The earth and the sky leave, but they don't have a place. So it's kind of interesting.
Sounds like a new heaven and new earth is needed at that point.
Yeah, interesting. Revelation 20:12, I saw the dead, both important and unimportant people, standing in front of the throne. Books were open, including the book of life. The dead were judged on the basis of what they had done as recorded in the books. Daniel 7:10, a river of fire flowed. It came from him. Thousands and thousands served him. 10,000 times 10,000s were stationed in front of him. The court convened and the books were opened. How many is that, Jake?
A lot.
Matthew 16:27, the Son of Man will come with his angels in the Father's glory. Then he will pay back each person based upon what he has done or not done. John 12:48. Man, I really did some weird things with the numbers there. John 12:48. John 12:48. Those who reject me by not accepting what I say have a judge appointed for them. The words that I've spoken will judge them on the last day.
Yeah, this is Matt. You ever get accused of believing in a works-based salvation?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right here it's saying the dead were judged on the basis of what they had done. That's interesting. So what you're doing is recorded in the books, meaning the books, well, there's multiple books. The book of life, also there's other books. The books were open, including the book of life. And then, so all that's recorded, and all the doings that are transpiring, and then judgment based on that.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting, in our modern world, we have something like this. And what I would say is kind of like this is your browser history, because your internet service provider ultimately can see, or your work, whoever's hosting and paying for it can technically, usually can see all of the things, and it can be dumped into a line-by-line spreadsheet and examined. And, stuff like that's pretty sobering. But that's kind of like this, if you've ever seen that data dump, where it timestamps and gives the websites. It's similar to your browsing history, it's like you can't hide it. You can't, unless you do, what's it called? VPN, then you can. But anyway. To me, that's kind of an example of all your deeds are.
Yeah, whenever I VPN, I make it look like I'm at Matt's house.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that.
All right, am I up? I think you're up.
Oh, maybe. Revelation 20:13. The sea gave up its dead. Death and hell gave up their dead. People were judged based upon what they had done. Isaiah 26:19, your dead will live, the corpses will rise, those who lie dead in the dust will wake up and shout for joy, because your dew is a refreshing dew, and the earth will revive the spirits of the dead. Is that Yadu? Is it a Mountain Dew?
Maybe. The Mountain Dew.
The original. Matthew, it's probably doesn't have caffeine and sugar in it. Matthew 16:27, the Son of Man will come with his angels in his Father's glory. He will pay back each person. We said that one just a second ago. And then, just a while ago. John 5:28 through 29, don't be surprised at what I've just said. A time is coming when the dead will hear his voice, and they will come out of their tombs. Those who have done good will come back to life and live, but those who have done evil will come back to live and will be judged. 1 Corinthians 15:26, the last enemy he will destroy is death.
Yeah, so I think the John verse there, John 5, is interesting because have you ever been to a funeral?
I have.
And what glorious tale do they spin for you? They tell you, oh, well, Jedediah is in heaven right now.
Looking down on me, and he's just smiling, so proud of me.
That's right. So you're being looked at from heaven. And then, I even get, famous radio pastors, they talk about, oh, when we go to heaven, we'll do all the things that we could even possibly ever imagine and want to do and fly around. And it's like, what? Where are you getting this from?
Yeah,
I don't see a whole lot of that. I think you fell into some.
Well, I remember people telling
cartoons.
Me that we're just gonna be sitting around playing harps and praising Yah. And I was like, that's it. You sure about that?
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to be created with a will to create and build and make and do, and then spend countless lifetimes doing nothing.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
All right. Revelation 20:14, death and hell were. Did you do that?
I did not.
Okay, death and hell were thrown into the fiery lake. Fiery lake is the second death. 1 Corinthians 15:26, the last enemy he will destroy is death, which we just read also. And I'll just finish off there. Revelation 20:15, those whose names were not found in the book of life were thrown into the fiery lake. So something interesting is that how is hell thrown into hell? Because that's what we think of with the fiery lake, right?
Right. With
the Dante's Inferno mindset that we have now on what afterlife looks like. But if you look at that word there, that word is death and Hades were thrown into the fiery lake. So Hades is also known as Pluto. It's a false god. So this is, I believe, one of the, it's talking about the whole Satan and beast and false prophet menagerie going on there.
I thought Pluto was cold.
But that's why he needs to go in the fire.
I guess so. No, that's interesting. That's a good point. Well, at the bottom of this, this is I can't remember the name of this outfit, but they do these images for free, and I have this in several places. But I probably popped it in here a little bit early, but this is like dimensions that are mentioned. So that's Ezekiel. It goes along with Ezekiel. So anyway, it's a pretty good graphic, laying it all out, showing you kind of what Ezekiel's describing there. So just put that in there for reference. Ezekiel 40:17. There's like 89 pictures here, so it goes on for a minute. So, and then as we've discussed, and it's been a while since we talked about it. Revelation does have this backward timeline, and then we now find ourselves in chapter 20, where you see this judgment, and then we're kind of going back, and we're going to start to see more talk of the new heaven, and then we'll get to 22, and we're back to the river of life and the tree of life, and back in the garden, kind of back to where it all began. So kind of an interesting backwards timeline that it has.
Yeah.
So all of those resources can be found on sabbathlounge.com. So, but Jake, anything else you have to say about this? I was thinking, man, it didn't take us very long, and then I'm like looking at the time going, oh, it took us a minute.
Yeah, just some rabbit trails. But no, it's a rather short chapter, but there's so much packed into it, and there's a lot of interesting tie-ins with the rest of Scripture. So definitely worth a study on its own, and we just hope that reading through this has helped you a little bit, and you can share this with other people, and if you found use in it and value in it, share it with someone and pass it along.
And we really appreciate our faithful followers, such as Christina from the UK, and Chirac, and Blessed Blooming Homestead.
That's right.
And we really appreciate your faithfulness and dedication and all your kind words and the comments and the thumbs up, and just it brightens our day. We appreciate it, and we hope that this is a benefit to you. And please like this, share this, subscribe, let other people know about it, and we appreciate anything you want to leave in the comments, any questions. We are emailable, sabbathlounge@gmail.com, if I remember right. So you can send us comments or questions via that email. I'll try to remember to put that in the comments as well. So is that right, Jake?
Yep, sabbathlounge@gmail.com. If you just go to the contacts tab, it'll be there. So yeah, reach out if you have questions or corrections to make for us.
Yeah.
We're open to that as well.
Yeah, very nice. All right, well, without further ado, this is Matt
and Jake
signing out.